Dr. Carroll, I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions. The first one is, what do you think that young people should just try to be figuring out about themselves when they're single?
About themselves? I think that this generation in particular is very lacking in maybe a central, concrete sense of self, who exactly they are in relationship to others. We all have kind of different roles that we play, but I think it's very important for there to be a central you-ness about that person. Like for me, there's a central thing that is Carol that I carry into all of my roles with me. And I think that's something that's incredibly important to get in touch with, because if you're not aware of who you are at your core, then from that just radiates out everything. And so if you have a central self that you can carry, that you know and that you understand and that you accept and that you understand is good and was made good by your creator, if you have that in you, then your chance of success in any other relationship or aspect of your life is magnified tenfold.
I didn't get married until I was 25, and I was really glad I waited that long because I was able to develop a lot of self-sufficiency. I could take care of myself financially, emotionally, physically. I didn't need someone. I got married because I wanted to be with that person, not because I had to be with someone. I was very secure with my own life first.
Well, I guess the one thing that I really learned while I was single that probably was the most important thing was the fact that I probably wasn't going to be happy single. Um, by the time I got old enough to have any kind of self-awareness about myself, I realized that I was not the kind of person who was going to be happy living alone. Um, I certainly can't imagine having gone through the 5 years of grad school without having someone that I could come home to every day that was a sympathetic ear that I could complain or express my fears and not worry about anything but that they were going to accept that.
Good.
If there's a single, perhaps, or one very important thing that I think every young person needs to come to grips or to know about themselves while they're young, before they're married, is that there will come the time when they're going to need to learn how to be content with where they are, with what they have, whether that's eventually in marriage or out of marriage, but they're going to have to learn how to cope with the present, with the situation as it is. They're probably never going to find themselves completely without a support system, but they need to know that that time may come and that they're going to have to learn how to have a level of contentment that's going to allow them to go to bed that night and get up the next day and make it through that day until either the situation changes or it doesn't.
I guess the thing I wish I would have figured out most before I got married was my relationship with God. I was, it was my age. I was still fairly young, but I wasn't raised in a church and basically raised as a functional pagan. And I wish I would have understood what it meant to be a disciple, and so that my wife and I could have come together in that. And she was, and I don't fault her at all for this. So she was much more of a leader in that than I was. Now I believe in a shared leadership understanding, but my input or my abilities there were significantly less so than hers. Now I think this is in part because of the way I was raised. I don't take all of the blame on that. I was raised in a basically a pagan household, but that, had I looked back on it, it's something I wish I would have known more than I did. Okay, the thing that I'd hope young people figure out before, or figure out about themselves before they get into a serious relationship, is particularly their understanding of themselves. My concern for young couples is so many are getting married and they've not developed a core self. And so, without a core self, they can't functionally give themselves away to someone else. And so, my concern is that we have folks getting married early who have not fully individuated. And they're not fully individuated. This creates problems, particularly egocentric problems, early on in marriage. It's not that it can't be worked out. It just makes the early years of marriage, or at least until individuation takes place, much more difficult.